Hello, and welcome to the Sage Abra eRecruiter product demonstration. In order to demonstrate the product, I'll be logging in as Nora Chin. Nora Chin is an employee for ZSI ABC Systems Incorporated. She's also a recruiter for ZSI. Once I log into the system, you'll notice that I'm brought to the Employee Self-Service Message Center. And on the left-hand side, we have a link for the Career Center. Clicking on this link will bring Nora Chin to the eRecruiter Message Center, or also known as the Recruiting Activity page. It's easy to see that she has 15 open requisitions, 1 pending, and 1 on hold, or 0 on hold. And she has no messages at this time on her Recruiting Activity page. Now, since she is a recruiter, Nora has access to all the features and functionalities within the product. And I'll quickly demonstrate those features and functionalities by clicking through each one of the screens, starting with requisitions. First, Nora can create requisitions. She can also manage existing requisitions, copy requisitions, edit existing requisitions, or look at the history of the requisitions. She can export requisitions out to the various job boards, starting with monster.com, and of course she can do requisition reporting. Under applicants, Nora has the ability to create an applicant. As a recruiter, she may need to go in and create an applicant. She can manage the existing applicant pool. She can search for applicants based on education, employment, and certain skill sets. She can look at applications, and an application is the combination of an applicant and a requisition. So this will show us what requisitions all the applicants have applied for. And here we can look at the status of the applications as well as change the existing statuses. She can search for candidates. Now, a candidate is an individual whose education, employment, and job history matches that we've specified in the requisitions. So this is where we'll go to fill certain positions. We can archive applicants, and we can also do applicant reporting, such as EEO analysis. Under interviews, we have the ability to manage existing interviews as well as set up new interviews for applicants. We can generate interview reports to look at interview scheduling as well as the notes. Under correspondence, we have the ability to create and maintain documents that we will use to correspond with our applicants, documents such as job offer letters, interview holding letters. And when we're ready to communicate with our applicants, we can do that by merging their data or their information with one of the templates, creating a Microsoft Mail Merge document. We have the ability to specify which signatures we would like to add to those documents. For example, you may want to have an interview offer letter come from the recruiter, and then the job offer letter come from the president of the company or the director of HR. You can easily do that by adding those signatures here. We have a systems menu, and this allows us to edit some of the code tables, import job codes or other types of codes, as well as assign a hiring assistant. And finally, since Nora Chin, she is a recruiter, she is also an employee for ZSI, and as an employee, she has access to the internal Employee Career Center. Here she can go in and search for existing jobs. She can look at the jobs that she's applied for, as well as update her profile. And that should give you a pretty good idea of all the features and functionality within the eRecruit product. And now what I'd like to do is come back to requisitions and begin by creating a new requisition. At this point, Nora Chin, the recruiter, has been communicated to by a hiring manager or a supervisor that a position has come open within the company and that position needs to be filled as soon as possible. So Nora will log into the system and click on Requisitions, New, and begin the process of creating a new requisition. Since we have multiple employers set up in the Abra HR database, we first have to begin by selecting the employer for which this position will be hired. And now I'm ready to start the process of creating the requisition. You'll notice the requisition creation process is set up much like a wizard in that there are a number of steps, starting with setup all the way through to approving the requisition and attaching any documents. So we'll enter a description for this requisition, electrical engineer, And the requisition ID can be an auto-generated number, or it can be a unique ID that you enter at the time of creating the requisition. We'll specify a shift, a reason, posting type. We can post this requisition to the external Career Center, to the internal Career Center, or both. We'll select a hiring manager from the list. We can also select a supervisor, and this will come from the Abra HR database. And the recruiter, we'll go ahead and leave that at Sonora Chin. We'll enter any keywords that we want to include into the requisition. We can specify an application deadline, whether or not we'd like to post this requisition out to a job board, beginning with Monster, and whether or not we'd like to require a background check. The next step will be to add any additional positions that we may have under this rec. We currently have one position open. If you had multiple positions, you can easily add them here by clicking on the Add button. And now we're ready to specify the job information, starting with job location, job category, and finally job code. And by selecting the job code from the Abra HR database, all the other relevant information will be brought in, including job title, EEO class, job summary, job requirements. Whether or not we'd like to do EEO reporting, we can easily check that. And the job code has a salary grade associated with it in the Abra HR database, so all the salary information is also brought over. And here we can specify any targeted annual salary that we'd like to specify for this position. Under requirements, we can start building our minimum as well as our preferred requirements for this position. The skills. These skills can be imported into Abra HR or into the Abra eRecruit product. Whether or not we'd like to have a test required. And we can also, as I said before, build preferred qualifications. But I'll go ahead and keep that open just to speed up the demo. Under additional data, here's where we're going to add any additional screening questions. You can have several different types of screening questions. Radio button, which would be a yes or no. You can have drop-down type questions where the applicant can select the value from a drop-down list. Now you can have global screening questions that would apply to all new requisitions, or you can have requisition specific. You can attach or include any additional costs associated with this requisition if you wanted to track cost per hiring, any notes, approvers. Now here you'll see we have Mary Johnson set up as an approver. In this case, Mary is a global approver, so any new requisition that gets created must first go to Mary for approval. We could easily go in and add additional approvers to the list. For example, if you wanted to include the hiring manager or the supervisor as a secondary approval, once Mary has received, reviewed, and approved the requisition, it would then go to the next person in the list for approval. And we can also add any documents to the requisition. If we wanted to attach, for example, a salary survey or something of that nature, we could easily do that here, or a job description, a more detailed job description. And now we're ready to go out and approve this requisition. So I'll click Send for Approval. And at this point, the requisition has been sent to Mary Johnson for approval. Mary's received an email in her email inbox stating that a requisition has been created for electrical engineer, and within that email is a link back to the Career Center. So Mary Johnson will click on the link, and it will bring her back to the Career Center. So let's log off as Nora Chen, and now we're going to play the role as Mary Johnson. So Mary Johnson has received the email and clicked on the link, and it's brought her back to the Career Center. Under Requisition Approvals, you'll see that Requisition 52, Electrical Engineer, has been sent to you for approval. At this point, Mary can easily approve or reject the requisition and specify a note if she wanted to. But first, we'll have to go out and look at that requisition to make sure that it is, in fact, accurate. So I can bring up the requisition by typing in a description or a requisition ID. I've got several requisitions. The last one, Requisition 52, is the one that I'm concerned about. Here I can go and edit the requisition. I can make a copy of the requisition, or look at the requisition history to see when it was created and when it was sent to me for approval. At this point, let's assume that the requisition looks okay. So we'll go back to the Recruiting Activity Center. We'll go down to Requisition Approvals, and we'll set the requisition, and we'll add a note. And now we can send that requisition back to the recruiter with an open approved status. And now you'll notice that the requisition approval has been removed, and we have a message on our message center stating that the requisition was approved with the note attached. So at this point, Nora Chen, the recruiter, has received an email message stating that that requisition has been approved and the status has been set to open. So let's log back off the system, and we'll log back in as Nora Chen, the recruiter who originally created the requisition. And now you'll see that Nora has two messages on her message center stating that the requisition was hatched and that the status has now been set to open. So now that the status has been set to open, we know that the requisition will automatically be posted to the internal Career Center as well as the external Career Center, because we specified that when we created the requisition. In order to prove that it will be posted to the internal center, let's go down and do a job search. And here we'll select our company, we'll leave the location blank, and we'll select the category, Professional, and under Keywords, we'll put in EE. And now you'll see all the requisitions that I have in the system. The last requisition, created on April 30th, with a job title of Engineering 1, and the location is the Northeast region, is the one that I've just created and has been approved. And here you'll see the job summary and the requirements. And if you recall, we specified 2 years of experience, a minimum education level of Bachelor of Science, and the required skills were computer knowledge, circuit board assembly, electronic skills, C programming, and COBOL language programming. Now, as an internal employee of ZSI, Nora Chen, she could easily apply for this position, or she could also refer a candidate. Referring a candidate simply means specifying that candidate's name and email address, their phone number, the years of acquaintance, and any documents that you may want to include in that referral, such as a resume or a cover letter. But I'm not going to refer a candidate, and I'm also not going to apply for the position as Nora Chen, simply because Nora Chen, she is a recruiter, and she's certainly not an engineer. So what I would like to do is apply for that position as an external applicant coming in from the outside world. But in order to do, post it out to monster.com. So I'll go to Job Board Export. I'll select the requisitions that I want to include in my posting, and you'll see that the top requisition, 52, is the one we just created. I can now specify any information that I want to include in that posting. Also, we have some filters so that I can filter out some information. And finally, we have a Show Apply Online link. Clicking on that will include a link in my job posting, bringing the applicant back to my Career Center so that they can apply for the position. Clicking Next The job board export is complete and 23 job postings are included in the file. Click OK to download the file. At this point, the eRecruit product has created the file in a format that Monster.com requires in order to post the jobs. So we'll click OK, we'll download the file, and then we'll take that file and send it off to Monster.com. On that, the position should be available for us to apply for as an external applicant. Now, an external applicant obviously is going to come into the system from the outside world. Now, they may do that by first clicking on a Monster.com job link. And that link will bring the applicant to your company's website. So let's assume that we're an external applicant and we've been browsing Monster.com for open engineering positions. And we've noticed a position that's been posted for Engineer 1 in the Northeast by ZSI Systems. So we've clicked on the Apply Online link, and it's brought us to the ZSI career page. Now this career page, like all the other pages within the AWC framework, can be customized to match your company's website requirements. The logos, the fonts, and the color schemes can all be configured to meet what your existing website looks like. So now we're ready to search for the position by clicking on Job Search. We're looking for a job in the Northeast for ZSI, and it's a professional job with an electrical engineering concentration. And now you'll notice that we have 3 positions that we could apply for in the Northeast. Since we're interested in the most latest position, or the latest position, we'll select the Engineer 1 created on April 30th. And now we're brought to the job summary page. Here I can look at the summary of the job as well as the requirements, and if I feel that I meet these requirements, I can simply apply now. Now at this point, since I am a new applicant to ZSI, I'm going to have to create a profile because this is my first time applying for a position with this company. Now creating a profile simply means entering in an email address as well as a password. And now I'm ready to start applying for this position. Now certainly not all of this information is required as part of the application, but I'm going to go ahead and enter in some data simply because we'll want to generate some correspondence templates a little later, and those templates look much better if we have some data in the system. And of course, down at the bottom on the first screen, we have our EEO information. We have the felony question as well as the EEO questions at the bottom. Now we're ready to add any previous employment history. We can go in and add some previous employers, as many employers as we'd like. We can do the same with education. And now we're ready to add some skills. And we're going to add some skills. C programming, 3 years. We're going to add some additional skills. Circuit board assembly, 4 years. And one more skill, COBOL language programming, 5 years. And now we're ready to ask or answer some general screening questions, starting with the referral source, the type of employment that we're seeking, are we willing to travel, are we willing to relocate, and may you contact me at work. And here at the bottom, you'll see our additional screening questions that we set up in the requisition. And finally, I have the ability to attach any documents. Documents could be cover letters or resumes, any previous work that I've done in the past. And after I've attached the documents, I'm ready to submit my application. Before I do that, I have to agree to an authorization to use information form. I'll select I agree. And now I'm brought back to the Career Center. If I go to the Jobs Applied For link, it's easy to see that I've applied for this Engineering 1 position, submitted the application on April 30th, and I can go back and review or edit my application, as well as review or edit any of the documents that I've attached. And ZSI has my application and my information on file. So let's assume at this point that the applicant pool is building because the position has now been open for some time. So Nora Chin is ready to come into the product and look for an application or look for a candidate. And she'll do that by performing a candidate search. So we'll log into the system as a recruiter. And now we're ready to look for some applicants. Now the first thing we can do is we can look at the applicant pool, and we can look for applicants based on certain pieces of information, such as skills. If we wanted to see how many applicants have COBOL language programming skills, we could easily do that, as well as a Bachelor of Science degree with an engineering concentration. So the advanced search feature allows us to mine our applicant database, looking at or looking for certain applicants that carry certain skill sets, certain degrees, and certain majors. Now once we've done that, we could easily add them to an application, look at their history, or also edit their existing application. But what I really would like to do at this point is go out and fill that Engineering 1 position, and I'll do that by selecting the Candidate Search link. Here I'm brought to the Candidate Search page, where I can first select my requisition by putting in the requisition ID or typing in a description. I'll select the requisition ID that I'm interested in filling at this point. Now I can fill this position or look for candidates from my applicant pool or from my employee database. And the employee database search would look for individuals in your Abra HR database that have the skills, the education, and the degree and job title that we're looking for in this particular requisition. We're going to go ahead and search the applicant pool, and we're going to look for candidates who match job title, degree and major, as well as skills. And now I'll do a search. And you'll see I have a number of applicants in my database that carry the requirements that I'm looking for. But at the very top of the list, Sean White has a match count of 6. And the types of matches are job title, degree and major, and skills. So from the looks of things, Sean is certainly a qualified candidate. And we can verify that by clicking on his name and looking at his application, his previous employment history, his education, and the various skills that he holds. At this point, we're interested in interviewing Mr. White. So what I'd like to do at this point is go down to Interviews and set up an interview. So I'll click Add. I'll select the individual that I'd like Sean White to interview with. Now this can be any individual from the Abra HR database. So we'll go ahead and use Nora Chin ourselves as the first interviewee. We'll set the date for Monday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The location will be the HR office. The topic will be the electrical engineer position. The applicant, of course, will be Sean White. So we'll go find him from our applicant database. And once we've selected the applicant, it's going to bring in the associated requisition that that applicant is tied to. We can specify that we'd like to attach a resume as well as the additional screening questions that Mr. White responded to during his application. So now we're ready to send the invitation. And by doing so, the invitation will get sent out to the interviewer, Nora Chin in this case, and it will have all the associated information as well as the resume and questionnaire attached to the interview. And now, many of you may be thinking that you like to perform interviews in a group, so what we can easily do is go in and copy this interview invitation and select a different interviewer. So in addition to having Nora Chin interview Sean White, perhaps we'd like to include the hiring manager or the supervisor. And we can do that by selecting that individual and clicking Send Invitation. So another invitation will get sent out to Albert Albright containing all the information, the interview date, time, location, as well as the application and the resume for Sean White. Now if you'd like to stagger the interviews, let's suppose, for example, that you'd like to have the president of the company interview with Mr. White at 9, you can easily go in, select that individual from the list, set the start time for 9, end time at 10. We'll move the location to the executive suite, and now we'll send that invitation. So that will go to Donald Adams with all the information included in the invite. So now we have the interview set up, and the interviewers have received invitations in their email inbox with a link back to the Career Center. And what they can do, once they click on the link, it will bring them back to the Recruiting Activity Center page, and they will have an interview invitation on their Message Center. And this is where they can accept or deny the interview. And once an accepted status has been set, the interviewer will then have an interview evaluation added to their Message Center. And that evaluation will read, select your recommendation for hire from the status list. So once the interview has been completed, the interviewer can come in and do a hire, no hire status. So let's assume that Monday has come and gone, and that we've completed our first round of interviews with Sean White. So Nora Chin will come in and set her recommendation as a hire, and in either case, she can add a note to that recommendation. And now we'd like to communicate this to Sean that he has been accepted as a candidate for this position. And we'll do that by generating a correspondence document. So we'd like to send a job offer letter to Sean White, and we'd like that letter to come from Nora Chin. So we'll go out and find our applicant, Sean White. We'll find the application that he has applied for, and now we're ready to do a mail merge. By clicking the Mail Merge button, the eRecruiter product is going to take Sean's information that was entered in during the application, and it's going to merge that with a Microsoft Word document. In this case, it's a job offer template. And what that's doing is it's creating a custom letter that we're offering him the position for Engineering 1. And here you can see the job offer letter. And of course it contains all the information that Sean has entered during his application, the position that he's applied for, and since we selected Nora Chin, selected her signature, the letter will come from her. Now this is a letter that could be edited before it's sent out and mailed. So now we've mailed the letter to Sean, and he's called in accepting the position. So what we can do at this point, in order to bring Sean into the company as a new hire, we'll go to the Applications section, we first have to close down our letter template. We're going to look for Sean's information by typing in his first or last name in order to find the application. And now we're ready to change the status. We'll change the status from New Application to Offer Accepted with a start date of May 8th. You can specify the annual pay, frequency, and any other information. And now we'll click Save. And by saving that application into an offer accepted status, when we go into the Abra HR product and we record a new hire, Sean White will be available to select from our applicant pool. By selecting Sean from the applicant pool, his information will now be brought over into the Abra HR database. All of his personal information, his demographic information, his job title and job code, the hiring manager, the supervisor, as well as his employment history, his education history, and any skills that he has, all of that information will be brought over into Abra HR. And that completes the process of opening a requisition, approving that requisition, posting it out to the internal as well as the external career center, exporting the requisition out to monster.com, applying for that position as an external applicant, locating the applicant by performing a candidate search, setting up an interview with the applicant and various people within the organization, and communicating with the applicant by using our correspondence templates. And the last step is the offer accepted step, which brings the applicant's information over into Abra HR. And now we've successfully filled the position for Engineering 1. And that concludes our product demonstration of eRecruiter. Thank you and have a great day.